This is the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Matt. In this podcast, we're going to discuss growing companies, automation and manufacturing,
and how we're building the lives and businesses we want to see in the world.
We're back on the map.
You want to kick us off?
Sure. General feelings of the week for me is, I think laser focused and kind of hitting a lot of flow is probably the best. The last couple of weeks, just knocking out the sales tasks, had one product development contract come through. It was a deal that came out of left field, had been talking to this potential customer for 5 years. I hadn't talked to them in a year. They wanted an impromptu meeting last Friday, and we're moving forward with the contract already. Like the project's already started.
That's great.
So
Yeah.
it's just like one of those, like, I haven't even been chasing this guy for a year and a half because I just like, I'll just wait at this point and out of left field. So
that's good.
Yeah, it was fun on that, but that really just kind of the same theme across the rest is we've got another project that it looks like budget's being allocated just in a holding pattern right until the funds are allocated. So that's kind of how I'm feeling for the week.
Yeah, the corporate holding patterns I'm starting to become more accustomed to.
Yeah. So what about Michael?
Oof. Just kind of pure craziness. So, we had the assembly area and, we kind of tore everything apart and rebuilt it. Redid a ton of Kanban, went and I started reading the 2-second lean by Paul Akers, and also, you had recommended and a bunch of other people, the Toyota way, and, did this while we were getting rid of stuff. You would encourage me to get rid of a ton of stuff. I just threw a ton of stuff out.
Awesome.
I've
it's been so liberating.
It is, yeah. But like really, really long days, like physically moving stuff. The assembly area looks totally different. Aggressively like buying duplicates of tools, like dedicated workstations. Got through all of that. We onboarded our first, additional assembly guy, which has been great so far. And I'm doing the go to the Gemba Toyota thing. I'm doing the work myself and seeing just how many inefficiencies and problems there are, which has been both very liberating and also very demoralizing. Because like, oh man, this is how we've been doing it. Like, there's so many things I just feel like are not up to the standard of where I want them. And through all of this, we've been getting just this crazy surge of orders, which even though I've totally taken my foot off the gas, which is like a stupid thing to complain about, but we're so short-staffed that our lead times are getting out there. The being very careful to manage expectations. And then, at the exact same time, well, I guess right after I went and did all this assembly stuff, I went and did the same thing with the machining department. And it feels like now I'm like starting from square one of like, oh shoot, I just busted my ass for a week and a half trying to fix this one thing. And then I have identical, if not worse problems over in this other department. So I'm like really optimistic. I'm like really going all in on the lean thing, but I'm kind of tired, to be honest, right now.
Yeah, lean is one of those where you got to do the bulk and then eventually you have to let your team just start taking the day-to-day activities of improving it. Otherwise, they'll never own it. So I think it's fair to be tired, but hopefully your team starts recognizing that initial lift.
Yeah, but I haven't been doing like sales at all, really. I've been on the shop floor and really trying to change like a lot of the culture. Like reading all this lean stuff. There's all this talk of overproduction, which is supposedly the main waste, and throwing all this stuff out. I can't tell you how many extra parts we made, or it was a prototype, but we made 6 of them, or thing after thing after thing. I really saw as we were throwing out what overproduction looked like, and then even on the shelf, I saw all these places where we had created sub-assemblies, even though it wasn't what the SOP had said, right? Our old assembly guy had made sub-assemblies, which would just sit there waiting, right? And then we get a surge of orders, and then we would be behind elsewhere. So even little things like that, I'm really trying to force everybody on the floor, like, no, do not make a sub-assembly of that. Like, unless there's a really good reason.
You don't find your
You
don't find your weak link otherwise.
But lots of carts, lots of U-line, lots of trash. Not my normal our normal like sales and marketing back and forth.
Yeah. No, I like it. I don't know how you can listen to the Toyota way. I tried that first because
Hmm.
my typical SOP for books is I'll listen to them first, and then if I enjoy them, I might listen to them a second time,
Yep.
and then I will physically read them. Toyota way was one of those where like I couldn't engage with it in an audio version.
It's just so damn boring. I mean,
Yeah. Like,
yeah. I think it's because I've been sold on the lean thing. Like, I don't think it's possible to be your first lean book.
oh, definitely not. No, yeah, it's not your first one. You need to maybe have been part of some Kaizen events at a internship or done some 5S at some other organization and then felt the pains like you're
Mhm.
doing before you really dig into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was telling Milo the other day we should be done with it by the time he's one at our current pay.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wish they would have made the book more exciting. I mean, it just, but the content's really good. It's like a
Yeah.
textbook. That's how you have to treat it.
Yeah, that's a fair way to do it. Listen to it, read it. It'll be good.
It's implementing that's hard.
Yeah. Just pick one thing at a time, similar to the small business book. I think one thing that probably is resonating with you that I've enjoyed seeing you change, Michael, is your consistency is getting better. Where rather than trying to change something overnight or spin your team really hard, you're consistently changing stuff
Hmm.
and being more deliberate around it, which I think that's a really big thing of lean processes in Toyota Way that I've really enjoyed watching you grow at. Like that's really cool.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah. And I feel like I'm growing up as a business person and trying to put like little systems in place. Like even right now, like with the exception of extra load, we've just paused all product development for the most part. I mean, we're making tweaks, but I'm trying to consolidate. I'm trying to squeeze basically take our part count down, even if over time our overall number of SKUs goes up. The kind of moving into just in time
Yeah.
production where we can, but it's a process.
Something that we've seen is I know you and I had talked about scorecards a while back. So we have a scorecard now that shows what our actual R&D budget is. So at the beginning of the year, or like I think it was in December when we set what our goals were looking like for 2025. And we had set a number of allowed engineering R&D hours.
Hmm.
And then we track that on a monthly basis of what of that bucket we've used. And then we also allocate CI in there. So continuous improvement or lean
Right.
activities
Yep.
that people can continuously improve upon. We track that number too. So we can see how we're using it. Cause it's easy to go so far in on the processes. I don't know if I've stated this in the past, but the kind of Apple quote that I've really enjoyed kind of resonating to the team is Steve Jobs made a comment once that, they got so into building the processes, they forgot about their business, the
Right.
products, and the customer and what they really were there doing, which then actually hurted their profitability on the other side where they got so good at doing something, they forgot what they were really doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I always continue to think of
Right.
myself or of our team of like, all right, are we doing these things for the right reasons for improving processes, or do we just need to make the problem bigger to make it a real problem?
Yeah. For sure.
Oh,
I
Matt,
guess random question. Especially in service businesses in the past, like we when we were more in engineering consulting, we close a big deal or a big client or whatever, and we went from kind of not having enough to do to having way too much to do. And when you're in that service business, you kind of have to split the difference in like headcount and costs. Um, the I'm trying to figure out like what we do now because like if the tariffs magically go away tomorrow, obviously it's going to be I'm not going to just be passively selling far beyond what we were doing actively. I guess, do you have any take on how to respond, where to cap growth, that kind of thing?
oh, that's a common challenge that I kind of ask myself or question I ask myself too. And I don't know if I have a really good answer because I really like aggressive growth, but at the same point, you have to stay in a sustainable growth pattern. So, what's your leverage ratio? What's your cash balance? What's your comfort with risk too?
Right.
associated with that because you could be watching your leverage ratios, your cash balance, but then you have just a different net worth, if you will, or capabilities that you're like, all right, I'm fine with a different business level risk because of these things. So I think the equation's bigger than a blanket answer.
Yeah, it is. And that's what's so hard is I'm doing the split the difference thing, and I'm like, man, if this is sustained, but
What do you mean by split the difference?
splitting the difference between like if I model the business with you know when things certainly change, like it was like a switch flipped when the tariffs came on, right? All of a
Mhm.
sudden, all these old deals that were essentially dead leads came back and are just like, we want this thing now. And
Can you
if uh
what's the number of those that like wanted this now? Just trying to quantify it for the listeners.
like 6 or 7, but
Okay.
this is in the course of a couple weeks, and we're talking $20,000 to $40,000 deals, right?
Okay. That
Um,
context helps me a lot.
yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
And it's like, okay, well, and it's not just that, like our actual product sales just passively on our website have also bumped up.
Okay.
The it just seems like people are seeing, and we're seeing this internally, like, well, you just can't make stuff internationally anymore if these tariffs continue.
But
You just can't. Yeah.
is this a tariff thing that's driving your growth, or is this you've just been hitting the marketing better? We've been doing this podcast
Sure.
for
Yeah.
about a year. You've
Yeah.
been doing more on LinkedIn more continuously because like something that I've seen a lot with marketing is it's not about necessarily one big push. It's about just time in game or time
Yeah.
and presence,
Right.
especially in the B2B space, industrial space. Like I think we've talked about this, a lot of the trade events I used to go to. It took 2 years before people would even
Yeah.
talk to me. So how long does
Yeah.
that take on a digital presence? I have no
Right.
idea.
I think the answer is both. So, from like the perspective of someone who, was making some stuff domestically, making some stuff in house, and making some stuff internationally. The like now, if it costs, between 145 and 245% more, you just can't do it internationally. You might as well,
No.
it'll cost less to make it in house. So, like for us, all of a sudden, like there's all this pressure to get those spindles going to buy work holding, to do all the things to just be able to insource everything. That really changes how much like our Kanban quantity should be, because now we can hold a lot less inventory. And but I'm seeing that pressure, and we're internally investing in tooling and processes and automation, and I'm just seeing our customers do the same thing. And I think we're kind of the right vendor at the right time to deliver that for production shops. So I think that's the tariff thing. And then as far as the marketing thing, I had this issue where I would, be really good about marketing one month, and we'd be super consistent with posts, it was all scheduled out. Then it would drop to zero the next month, and then really consistent. And there was like this, every this inverse oscillation, because there's about a month like time to close on average on these deals. So whenever I was good at marketing, our sales were low, and vice versa. Um,
Hmm.
Now that Priscilla's taken over a lot of that role, it's just kind of smooth.
Well, that's good.
So I think that is contributing mostly to kind of our passive maintenance, like our passive income, just through e-commerce.
We're just thinking that through. I
Yep.
guess that seems to make sense. It's just the whole tariff context has just been like, how much of this is reactionary? How much was it just pent up? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I like that's the one thing is it's like you want to talk about the Toyota way or being lean or proactive in your business. It's like not being reactionary to the day to day of
Hmm.
what hits the news. And it's
Well,
like,
yeah, yeah, and to be honest too, like I wouldn't be reactionary. Like if we could go to our old vendors in China and still buy stuff at the same amount, right? First, like especially some of our like lower precision stainless steel parts. Like if we hadn't done the thing, got the quotes, and then seen the 145% tariffs, the like we kind of have to be reactionary to that, or else our costs are just going to balloon and we won't be profitable,
yeah, I
right?
guess I'm feeling the pains at a different
Yeah.
thing because we vertically integrated so much. We do so
Yeah.
much of our stuff in house, and I guess, having grown up very much American made methodology, if you will, or kind of that farmer kid, if you will, it was like that was just the way we kind of started the
Yeah.
business. Is while suppliers may have cost us more, it was how can we find people that are within like 100 miles to work with, like that we just
Yeah.
like, I can drive by our frame supplier and our powder coating vendor on the way home from work if I want to. And they might not be the very cheapest, but they're within like 5% of other bids we've got.
Right. Yeah, and typically our flow has never been like, oh, just send it to China. It's been, okay, we're gonna make the first 3 revs here, right, locally. We're gonna test it. We're gonna see how it does. Then we're gonna make a batch of 10, and right. And the problem has always been to send that out to a local shop. It's like, we're paying $2,000 a part.
Yeah.
So, typically we'll do the first, I don't know, 50 to 100 parts in China. Then past that, we usually bring it back domestic, and then if something really sells, that's when we try to make it in-house because we then want to stop paying the margins of the local shops.
Yeah, that it definitely seems like you need to vertically integrate your
Yeah.
machining, or you need to, I guess, build some form of collaborative partnership where you're like, all right, how can we do blanket POs with this one supplier? They're going to be 80% of our stuff. We're going to have a 20% backup, and we're just moving everything in with them.
Well, yeah, and the problem is like we have a couple of these domestic suppliers where we have the ongoing work or the retainers, and the issue is now become, well, their prices are surging because they're way busier all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And and that's been more pressure for us to insource in addition to I'm just seeing it as kind of an industry-wide trend, and I am afraid, like you said, of being reactionary because if everything's so unstable, like it could be snap of the finger and there's no tariff tomorrow, which would be you know interesting on its economic impact on the manufacturing economy.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's been a wild 3 weeks for sure.
yeah. So for your sales and marketing, just kind of recap that is there's happening passively unknown is whether it's tariffs or just the level of marketing that you've invested over the time of what's kind of been built over last year and now Priscilla taking over the consistent cadence of social media.
Yeah, I think that's right. And if we had been doing the marketing the whole time, there would have never been these dead leads to begin with, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. What
Uh,
about your sales and marketing?
Sales and marketing for us is website pages are starting to go live. So by the end of next week, we should have our entire new website revision or 80% done. There's going to be a little bit after Automate, but the bulk of the pages that leads from Automate will be looking at will be done. The automation assessment page we turned into a product, and I took your advice to make a proven process around that. We also did it around our build design and build process. So that's both those actually got put into our printed brochures that will have it automate. So thanks for that tip. We had
Mhm.
just enough time to squeeze them in under the wire. And it looks really good, I think, on the automation assessment product page. So I
So I
think
go
it
to products and that's how I get to it, or
correct. Go to products
oh,
and
there it is.
then
Yeah,
yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, I love the proven process thing. I do. I know I encourage you to move it up on the web page, but
And I did.
the
Is that where you wanted it? I moved it up based on your recommendation.
yeah. And I'm thinking about it. Seeing yours, and I'm kind of wondering like, well, if automation integration is like the primary thing you do, maybe this is something that just lands on the homepage. And obviously, I'm thinking about that for us too. Like, we have this proven process, nice infographic. It's not on our homepage, but maybe it should be because it is kind of also our primary business.
Yeah. So what I'm looking at for that is we're going to have this one on the automation assessment page. I want to rebuild our about us page, build a single source guarantee and kind of our processes about how we do stuff and kind of make a full circle kind of couple pages that's about us really. And that's
Yeah.
where I was going to highlight it. Maybe we bring that into the homepage. I want to see how it works in a couple areas before I just go gung ho on this, but uh, that is a solid idea to continue to evaluate.
Yeah. I think, even if you don't do it, it's something I should do
Yeah,
because, like,
I'm not saying you shouldn't. I just want to try it in a couple areas first.
right. Are you A/B testing anything on the website, or are you guys not there yet?
We're not there yet. I was actually just looking at our kind of forecast. We basically have marketing, like our actions is what our agency calls them, or tasks. We're kind of booked through October of things we want to do. And once we're through then, I don't think there's any products, any services, any rebuilds that are wanted to be done on the website at that point. I know I probably said this 9 times in my last couple of years here. But at that point, then we'll probably get into more A/B testing and stuff like that,
Yep.
the heat mapping, and really dig into tuning the website. But there's still a little bit of building left.
Yep. And I know we had talked last time about wanting to hold each other accountable, and your thing was doing that, generating the proven process of how your automation assessment worked, which you did. Obviously, we can do mine.
Yeah. What was yours again? I can't remember.
So mine was that I was going to kill some SKUs,
Okay.
and we did it right on the call. And the SKUs we were going to kill were number one, our pressure booster,
Okay.
and number two, all of our we had like these standardized plates for being trays. Turns out
Oh
everyone
yeah,
just
I
buys a
remember
block
that.
of aluminum.
Yeah.
So I took them both down on the call, and then I actually put the pressure booster back up with a caveat. So we had an order that was held up that had two pressure boosters in it that triggered the Kanban, right? Because our minimum stock is 0, right? Because we can
Okay.
get them. So but we put in an order of 4. So now there's 3 on the shelf, and basically I left it on the site after I deleted it. I put it back. I put the inventory to 3. Once those are gone, I'm gonna shut the product off.
No, that's killing it in my mind because that's
Yep.
exactly what we talked about was run through your inventory so you realize that revenue.
Yep. I also killed the UMC rotary union.
Oh,
There's just too
okay.
many variants of the machine, and we had too many people selecting the wrong one, and then it didn't fit, and then we had to RMA it. We really are like customer service first, and a lot of the time, like if you can't streamline that, it takes too much money to make the product be profitable.
It does. Yeah, that's a real pain. But I think you made the right decision then if that was the case.
Well, we still have to stock it and build it because like it goes into all the intra loads and all the line loads. But I'm just not putting it on the website. It's just too much work.
Yeah, it allows you to focus on where the real, because if it's part of those cells, those are higher revenue anyways, which means you more likely have a higher profit. And those customers are probably a little easier to work with, especially if they're not RMAing 50% or
Yeah.
more of the time.
Well, we're doing the turnkey install, so if we screw it up, we select the wrong one. It's our
Yeah,
fault. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Sorry,
Okay.
we're kind of in between sections. I don't know where we.
Yeah, I was really done with sales and marketing, so it was a pretty good transition kind of there to back to you on things we were wanting to do for sales and marketing. You got
Yeah.
the killed SKUs and I got the proven processes. Anybody that's not using ChatGPT, I highly recommend it because I think I dropped that into ChatGPT and like within 10 minutes I had that an image to Michael
Hmm.
after the call. So yeah,
And I was both shocked and like a little annoyed. Like, I spent like 2 hours making the stupid like little infographic, thinking about every little thing, and you go and type it into Chat GPT, tell it what you want, and you have like a perfect thing that might even look better, like 10 minutes later.
it's a
Yeah.
tool. I mean,
I
I
know. Yeah.
swear I'm living in that so much more, and we can talk about that more as we get into what we've been Googling or Chat GPTing, if you will. I
Right.
think it should be called Google or Chat GPT moving forward because I live in Chat GPT way more than
Yeah.
Google.
I'm with you on that. But yeah, I mean, like I like yours honestly a little bit better because it's more compact on the screen. Like ours has a problem. It just takes up too much real estate. And it's like, when the user has to scroll too much, it just creates more friction and they're less likely to continue engaging.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess maybe I need to pass ours into ChatGPT.
Go for it. Do you
Yep.
pay for the model?
Like the $20 a month. I think we
Yeah.
pay for like 2 or 3. I know Priscilla uses a couple of them. Um, but I don't use it enough. I'm still using Google and email and like sure I use Fixer, but um, there's definitely a lot left on the table for me to do.
Yeah. Because paying for it makes a huge difference because it starts learning.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
I was asking it a question and then it like built out like what was in my mind, but I never even told it. It was eerie the other day, like something that I had it do for me. And it went above and
Yeah.
beyond and I didn't even tell it certain things. It was like,
So
holy
it
crap.
like put the little icons in and it just did it all for you.
That was so the one that's on the website now that
Uh-huh.
was taken over into Adobe Illustrator. So then
Okay. Yeah.
could be put into a proper format.
Yeah.
But the prototype was built by ChatGPT. It looked
Yeah.
very similar to that. I gave that to Dylan on our team, who's really good in Adobe. And yeah, he tuned that up and made it really good so we could use it in the brochure and a couple different because we needed it in like a stacked version where it
Hmm.
went like 3 of them on top, 2 underneath, so it could fit on our brochure. And then we needed this full line option for the website. Where trying to ask that at ChatGPT, it did some weird things where like it would just not make them look the same.
Hmm.
Like it did some really just stupid stuff. And after like 10 minutes of that, I was like, I'm not getting anywhere. So let's just
Yeah.
build this.
I still want to push you. I just think like, you have like the top little automation systems integrator thing, right? Then your various services. I would encourage you just to put this, right below that as well. Because to me, the core of your business is these automation integrations and just having
Oh, you're
that
saying on the homepage?
on the homepage, yeah. That like at a glance understanding of how it works. And to be fair, I think we need to do the same for our turnkeys. But probably after we kind of compactify and make it look, as nice as your guys' looks for the proven process.
So are you saying after, so we've got automation systems integrator, that banner? You're saying right after the first banner?
No, right after, like right above about develop LLC. So like
Okay.
the because obviously you want to tell them what your services are, and then I think this is kind of your primary product, right? I mean, there's the product development stuff, and obviously like the product line, but it seems like this is the main path you want to kind of run people through.
Automations are,
Yeah,
it's turned into 80% of our
yeah,
business. The reason we maintain manufacturing and product development is we need sometimes, like you said, that balance in the service business.
yeah.
It's kind of our hedge, if you will, for the deep valleys that occur in automation. That's the reason we want 20% of our revenue there, our products.
Right. The What's your take on video, like on the website, on the homepage? Because I know you guys have a video in your very first banner, which is something that we did at one point and moved away from.
Um, I personally like video. I don't like it when you scroll and it plays. I want
Yeah,
it to be a
yeah, yeah.
deliberate click, because it's an image and then it's a video as well. I don't know. That's kind of been my thought.
Right.
Um, we are noticing, like, if you look at YouTube's interesting metric that I found out, that like I think it was 17% of our traffic's coming from social or YouTube now.
Yeah.
So to our website, the other 80% is coming from SEO.
And you're still not doing like any pay per click, right?
Uh,
Or
we
like very
do
small amounts.
we do a very small amount. I think we spend like $20 a day on pay per click,
Okay. Yeah.
and that's just on Instagram. Like we stopped all of our Google. We're testing a little bit LinkedIn. I think that's $20 a day as well, but it's not a lot that we're doing on pay per click. I'm still very much on, let's focus on educating the customers and build this thing as organically as possible so it's sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. We still spend a decent amount in pay per click.
Yeah,
Probably more than
it
10x. Yeah.
it's valuable. Like
Yeah.
I think for products, I think for your business, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But I could be, maybe I need to start spending more on PPC, and especially now that our website might actually convert better. Where like before, I felt like I was just throwing money down the trash.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I think our website, now that I look through it, like our homepage especially, could use some work. There's always something to do,
It
something to
takes so much.
improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Websites take time.
Like even just last night, I was messaging our Shopify guy, and I was like, I don't like how our cart looks. Like I feel like we're losing conversions in the cart because it's ugly. And it's just this never-ending battle of optimization, literally everywhere in the business.
Yeah. I think like, if you want any feedback or something for next week, if we're looking for a task and you're on that, I would say, how do you remove stuff from your website? Because I feel like there's
Mm,
been a lot added. If like I go back
yeah,
and look at your website right now, I feel like there's like, to make your buyer journey easier, is remove the amount of stuff that they have to look at and focus on what you think's actually converting.
right. It's a good point. Yeah, and maybe like grippers and grabbers, like we have this drop down, and it's like there's all these things. Maybe it should just be grippers and grabbers is like, and then it takes you to the general page that goes through and has the product collection at the top. Now that we do have more SKUs, so
Yeah.
that the drop down has like three things rather than,
Yeah.
every one of these has 8 to 10 things. So that,
And
yeah,
maybe the task isn't to actually do it. The plan is to map out how that could look and then have somebody else do it for you. So maybe this
yeah,
is like, all right, building out kind of that process, what you want it to look like. And then you have your Shopify guy do it for you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, it's faster than that. I mean, literally, I just go and take screenshots and I like edit a PowerPoint, and
Okay.
then he just will do what we tell him to do.
Hmm.
That's I love our Shopify guy. He's amazing. He's
Yeah, it seems
super
like you've
quick.
got a screaming deal there.
It's awesome. Yeah, like for the amount of skill he brings to the table, for as responsive as he is, for as quick as he is to do stuff. At $20 an hour, like I've said consistently, like he's our most productive employee, like per dollar. He's not a real employee, but like per
Yeah.
dollar, the best value. Because I could see paying $200 an hour for something similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, should we move on to
Engineering.
the next
Yeah.
section?
Engineering and R&D.
Let me think. 'Cause there's been something. Well, I guess one thing we have. So we've kind of filled up all of our install slots for intraload. And because of that, we're trying to do a little bit of like a 0.5 rev, because we currently have different versions between the UMC 500 and 750 intraload for the Gen 3 machines. And of course, they're about to come out with a Gen 4 to make our lives even harder. But we're trying to make, before we manufacture both of these for kind of late June install, we're trying to make it so they'll work with either machine so that we can build two identical units, bolt them on.
Okay.
And just changing things up a little bit. We're now forcing users to buy an auto door for the intraload, which everyone wanted one anyways. And then little product tweaks, like lots of little things of like I'm going through and saying, oh, we can merge this bolt with that bolt, and oh, can we eliminate like this version of the product, and lots of little things. And I think that's kind of been a theme for me of like really improving execution and not expanding our product line anymore.
I love it.
Of course, we have extra load still out there, and I think that's kind of where I have to draw the line and be like, okay, maybe that's our flagship product, but we're not going to go start building CNC machines or something crazy, which is I think
Yeah.
what I would have done a year ago.
Yeah, it might just be, your growth model might be looking at what percent of new products you want to create, and then you just let the rest kind of take it from there. If you can be executing efficiently, why can't you just continue to grow then? Because
Yeah.
your SKUs aren't going out of control, so your burn's not going to happen. You're just making more revenue.
Yep.
And I don't know, that might be an interesting way to look at yours because yours is so much more productized.
Right. Well, and in eliminating stuff, one thing we've considered, and maybe we should seriously look at again, is eliminating our line load product, which is like one of our two flagships. But the I think where we struggle with that product is the conveyor that like goes in through the side. Is that the people who have like a 5-axis CNC machine who want to do like sequential part loading, they're usually buying $500,000 machines. So then they're not afraid to spending $250,000 on an automation workflow. So we kind of struggle at this $30,000 to $50,000 price point in a way that we don't with the intraload, because it gives that flexibility of a pallet system, right? Um, so I mean that's a long-winded way of saying like sales have kind of sucked for the amount of R&D money we put into it. Like maybe we should just kill the product and move on, and the extra load can kind of be the thing that tacks on after that.
Hmm.
But for me, it's
I,
definitely one of these like kill your darlings kind of like difficult things to
yeah.
do.
Yeah, normally my gut would be to kill it, but I don't have enough context on that one because I know how much you put into it,
But does that
or
matter?
to a
Like
point.
it
No,
probably shouldn't, right?
the what you put into it's the wrong. You're right. That
Yeah.
is the wrong way to look at it. But like, I don't know what your revenue is. I don't know how long it's been on the market. I don't know what the market adoption timeline is on that. I know for like us, we typically see, sales or people to learn about stuff takes years
Yeah.
sometimes in this space. So like, has it had enough time to mature? I don't know those things on that product.
Yeah, well, and there's also like, this is one where I've like always been like, it could be better. And I think I've been really getting in my own way of like perfect is the enemy of done, right? And because I'm always like, oh, we can make another rev and improve it even more, I've never really pushed marketing. Like with Intraload, we did a pretty big marketing push of, email newsletters and videos and some like sponsored Instagram content. And we have seen that product kind of take off in a way that we've never seen with line load, but I never did those things with the conveyor system. So how much of it is my own fault? none of our products have been on the market more than 2.5 years to begin with, right?
So then why not just do the marketing now?
Yeah. And
What's your
that's,
what's your margin on it?
50% or so.
Would you sell? How many did you sell last year?
Like, it's like one a quarter. It's not,
Okay. So
yeah,
you got 100 grand there. You made 50 grand. What if you took, rather than kill it, you took that profit and you said, I'm going to spend that all on marketing. And if I can't X those dollars by a certain multiple, so say if I can't 4X my money, I'm out.
right.
I don't know. It seems like a momentum play to me. Like give it some momentum. If it works, double down. If not, cut it as soon as it looks like it's going to the red.
Yeah. And well, the thing too is like it's one of these things of like, do I pour more? There's always a risk of pouring good money after bad, right? It's like,
Mhm.
okay, we spent probably, I don't know, 100 grand, 125 grand of real money putting into the R&D of this thing. And then, we have the additional challenge of like, we're on Rev 4 of the product, but we have a Rev 3 on our own machine. So, like we have to go and spend another 25 grand to build another Rev 4 to replace the Rev 3 there to then create the marketing content and really push the product. Um,
That's context I didn't have. Is there
yeah,
one close by that you could just go shoot?
no. Very few of our customers are actually in like Southern California.
Yeah, that's a challenge. I didn't know that context to
Yeah.
it. I guess, I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't, how much does it cost to fly to the where the next one is? And then that forces you to be very deliberate about that. And you get a case study.
Right. Yeah. I mean, those are all options, but it's the like right now when you're struggling to like keep your head above water to like fulfill orders, and you have like kind of overwhelming demand for this other thing, which by the way now we're not even marketing and we still are like struggling to keep things on schedule. Um, the when you have that, it kind of makes you look again and say like, do I just kill this, right? Because we don't have that. I think the more I talk about it, the more I think the right thing to do is to kill a product line. As much as it hurts me with the amount of effort we put into it.
Yeah. Um, all I got to say is don't make it based on your current pain because I think
Yeah,
you're in a position that's unique right now because of just events that occurred over the last couple months.
yeah, for sure. And like part of it too is it has like a full like it's a second link in our nav bar on our website. But like one thing I hear sometimes is like, oh, I went to your website, I saw the intro load, like I want to inquire, right? I don't think I've ever heard that, even through their kind of passive like flow through the website. I'm like, oh, I saw the line load. I want to get a quote on this product, right? And there's just a lot of things that I think, it might be an uphill battle that maybe isn't worth fighting.
Yeah, you have a lot more context than I do. So, I mean, if that's where your gut is going, I mean, do it sooner than later.
The
If
more I talk about it, the more I think it's the right decision. It's just like I don't want to make it.
ask your team, or
Yeah.
is
No,
there
they think I
somebody
should
else?
kill it. They think I should kill that product. Um,
Why do they want to kill it?
because we don't sell enough of them and it's like too much work to build it. The because like the sales volumes are low enough, there's not a good flow. Um, and I think the biggest thing is like, we have the extra load product, which kind of doesn't exist yet. Like, we have a frame and like it's being prototyped and we haven't, it's kind of a carryover from the metal 3D printer that had that RZ Theta robot on it. Um, but literally just a couple of LinkedIn posts and some Instagram posts of this thing, like this half built carcass of a machine I think have generated more excitement than an actually like fully developed product. Um,
Here's an interesting perspective then from what you've said over the last couple months here is your goal is to work upstream or upmarket.
yeah,
By killing that and the other products that you have on your website and what you're focusing on, does that allow you to work upstream or upmarket?
yeah. I think that the extra load is just a better version of this product for the customer base that we're targeting.
And it's considerably more, isn't it? And you,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
But the
I mean,
thing, part of what's hard about the conveyor is like there's no analog to it. Like there's nothing that does exactly what this thing does. And like
I,
that's good, but
so now
being
it's a
a niche
customer.
of one is sometimes just too early.
Yeah, then it's a customer perception thing
Yeah, because
or
like
customer education.
with the extra load, you're like, oh, I can spend 300 grand on an Aroa cell, or I could spend 70 or 80 on the extra load, right? Like there's already that price anchoring, and people already know kind of what a pallet loading system does. So I think it makes it an easier sell.
It is. I find it interesting though, because it's a conveyor system at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like Fanuc does this, Brother does this. I'm surprised that
right.
it's that hard to educate.
Okay, so like the thing is, like it's literally just a conveyor, right? Like, with a bunch like a PLC and a bunch of electronics and stuff.
Yeah.
But like Brother has a conveyor that their pricing's all over the place. I've seen it as low as like 120, as high as 250. That has like a Fanuc robot that picks
Yeah.
it up from the conveyor with like vision and loads it there. The way that this is different is that you use a spindle gripper to grab the part, so it
Yeah.
simplifies and makes it a lot more cost effective. The Yeah, I didn't think the market education would be that hard. I just think there's not. I think people are already looking for robot cells in a way that they're not looking for this as an alternative.
What's the cycle time compared to a robot? Like, is it really clunky slow to do this?
Oh, it's generally a little bit faster. So
Oh,
like when you're
really?
doing,
So you're under,
well, it depends how fast you set the auto door, but it's 12. It's uh,
okay.
like with a robot in the same configuration, you're gonna have 4 seconds for the auto door to come up. You're gonna have 8 seconds for the part to be grabbed, and then the new part to be grabbed and deposited. Another 4 seconds for the thing to deposit. It's 20% faster than a robot. The minute you introduce like an auto door to these automation systems that has to be gone through, it
Yeah.
really slows them down.
Auto door seems like a one-to-one to me. So all we're talking about is conveyor in versus robot in.
Well,
I'm
the
really
way that it's
surprised you're faster than a robot. Like I'm really
yeah.
surprised that that application's faster than a robot.
Oh yeah, it's way. I mean, you can turn up the robot, but nobody does it. Like you buy a robo job, and or the Brother system or whatever. Like they move the robots pretty slowly and deliberately, so that if there is like a crash scenario or anything, it's kind of not the end of the world.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Everybody maximizes their feeds and speeds on spindles, just
Yeah, I
busting
know.
carbides at times. And then let's just keep this robot real conservative. Where I'm like,
Yeah.
run it at 80% all the
Well, yeah. Well,
time
they
or
shouldn't. Like
100.
most of the time, like most shops shouldn't be pushing the spindles like that. I mean, that's like I think the honest truth there.
Yeah, I'm saying robots. Like, I
Right.
mean, they're built to run at 100% all the time as long as you
Hmm.
have good
Yeah,
pathing for your
that's
system.
true. The reason I brought up the auto door thing though is that it is one to one and like conveyor or external system to like the line load, but it's not on like something like the intra load. Like we have a much faster like auto door that's on the inside of the machine. And then we also are able to in like a half open state because there's already a side door like
Oh, yeah.
begin movements. And then you go to like gripper automation, there's just no door to open at all, and that's 8 seconds saved every single load.
Yeah,
So
that's huge value.
yeah, but obviously the biggest thing is like what's your cycle time? Like if it's an hour, it doesn't really matter.
True. It's a rounding error then for 12 seconds.
Yeah. But what about your engineering R&D? I know I've kind of been eating
Nothing
up.
too crazy. We've got our part placer FANUC programming getting tested across 3 different robots. So we've got a little LR mate. We got one of the large FANUC 6 axes, and then we've got the FANUC CRX 25, and they're all getting some different type of application. One's on case erection and palletization, one's on just palletization, one's on product picking and placing. So it's really kind of running our software team through the testing and longevity or usability, if you will, for our customers, which is really cool to see before a lot of these go out into the field.
That's awesome.
Um,
Is it like a vision system placed? Like what is the part placing thing actually doing?
it's making it so it's a software that we've been working on for a couple of years now, where the pain is traditionally to make any changes within a robotic cell, you have to go to your pendant
Yeah.
and to change a path or a point. What we've wanted to do is make it so if you add for the example of the project we're working on, is you're placing, like I said, a product kind of like sticky notes or something like that is a good example. It's a square rectangular kind of product. And say they have a different product that changes by like an 1/8 inch. We want to make
Right.
it, or we've made it. So now the HMI allows people to change that product in a DXF format. Kind of like if you think about how
Yeah.
CNC machines used to be programmed right at the head, if you will. We're trying to do that, or we're doing it for robots on very specific applications. Where we've really started is palletization. That's really straightforward. The next one that we're testing is case erection. The other one that's similar to kind of in between the two is customized products, putting boxes. And
Gotcha.
so then now that we have it, what we really built it for was to make it so we could deploy robots faster and profitably. But what we're finding out is customers, it's a huge value prop is our HMI and this flexibility in cells. So they're like, oh, if we change our line slightly in the future, it's not going to cost us a boatload of money to call you back in here to do it. And then we then leverage it to the MRS to make it a really appetizing solution for moving palletizers around your factory floor.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of long-winded answer, but that's the
I
sale.
needed it to understand what was going on.
Yeah. Does that help, or do I need to make a proven process around that?
And I think the proven process thing, like you want to do one, right? Like the entire, and I think one piece of feedback that you gave me this call was like, what can we remove, right? The lean, like just delete. Um, I think like especially in terms of our website, that's something I need to come back to.
Yeah.
Because I think that we have just too much stuff. I think you're right.
Yeah. Just think about it, sketch it out. Um,
Yeah.
I have one other engineering and R&D.
Yep.
We had a machine flying colors through on factory acceptance testing. We were like a week away from shipping it, and we
Mm-hmm.
just get an email for an ECL,
What's that ECL?
engineering change order.
Oh, okay. I
So
heard ECL.
yeah, ECL, so
Yeah.
engineering change order. The request is to add another product variant that is outside of scope limits of the nut runner torquing
Yep.
hardware that we put on the machine. We spec'd a nut runner for that so that we built the machine for 450 foot-pounds. The nut runner goes up to 500 because we wanted some factor of safety in there of
Yep.
everything we were doing. Now they want an option to go to 475. We hadn't ran
Okay.
any of the math on the rotary table at those numbers. Our factor of safety is built on 450.
Right.
And so now the ECO is to go that. And it's like, how do we properly handle this? Because there's a lot of testing and re-engineering now that needs to go into this, where from the customer perspective, it's like all we're asking for is like 15 minutes of software. And it's like, that is not at all what this is. And
Yeah.
it's one of those interesting ECOs where we're trying to maintain the relationship, but really make it clear about what they're asking for.
But like it might be a whole new machine, and they'd view it as, oh, it's just 25 more foot-pounds.
It's not
Yeah.
quite a whole new machine.
Right.
We offered them two solutions. We'll do this at a near zero cost, basically what our time would be, but we're going to void your warranty.
Yeah.
We'll not carry through a warranty because nothing was tested. That'll be your most cost effective. The other one is we then have to do this the correct way, and then we have to retest everything we've done. And that's going to take a month, which is like 150 to 160 engineering hours of just
Right.
testing.
Yep.
And so that's the kind of sticker shock around it. That's frustrating, but it's like, if we're going to warranty the machine and stand behind it, I'm not skipping a step.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody on our team is willing to do that either, because we really stand behind our brand and what we build.
Right. Yeah. We had something really similar, where the like one big problem we've had is that we ask a lot of customers for stock in our like turnkeys and semi-turnkeys. So they send us stock samples. I swear everybody sends the sample like 4 weeks late. And then they're and we make it pretty clear like, hey, we need the stock to start generally. Sometimes we'll just start ahead of time and make adjustments. And I think that's something that we need to change, because in essence, like on this most recent project, we kind of had a CO without our knowledge or approval. We've pretty much finished the project, and then the stock shows up like a month late, and it's like an 1/8 inch out, right? So now like we're making all the magazines again, we're making all the soft shots again, and like just in our direct costs, this is like an extra $3,000-4,000 of labor. And the turnkeys, like we might only charge 7-8 grand. Like all our margin's just gone.
Yeah.
And we just ate it that time. But that's something I think that we need to put more of a process in place, because hearing how you've done it, you're clearly doing a better job on that front.
We had very similar pains.
Yeah.
We had a project once where a customer was coming for factory acceptance testing. they had mailed us the product like a couple weeks before because we needed more samples to run through their full factory acceptance while they're on site. We're like, all right, let's run some of these before they get here. Nothing's working on the
Yeah.
machine. And we're like, what is going on? The product
Yeah.
changed. They changed the product
Oh
on
my
us. Like,
God.
yeah, the product was drastically different. And so they changed the molds on their upstream processes and never notified us while we were building the machine, but had mailed us enough product samples to run it through for our internal
Right.
testing until we got to fab.
So how do you deal with that situation?
That was a tough one. That was
Because I see this all the time, and I got to get a better system and better
yeah.
transparency.
So we've changed it in our contracts. We've changed SOPs internally. We get samples upon SOW now. We label them, we put them in a tote, and this is what was approved upon on the real world samples, and they get a date stamp. They go
Yep.
on the shelf. Nobody touches those. Those are time stamped history, if you will. So if this ever turns into a debate.
Yep.
Uh, and then as product samples come in, we check them against that, if you will, if we need to, if we're like something doesn't seem right. But then we just continue to get samples from them that meet that. But we've gone through it recently too, though, where it was like, these are close enough, but it's like that close enough just bites you in the
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
And it's like you just gotta have those conversations with the customer sooner.
Yeah. Like for us with the semi turnkeys in particular, I think that stock, and that delay in lead time has been our two biggest hurdles to having a really clean process. You know, the first problem like with these corporate customers, there might be, a month of getting you approved as a vendor, right? And then and you get your first PO or in payment or whatever, and then in the purchasing person's mind, the clock has started ticking. Like, oh, we got
Oh
16
yeah.
weeks on this.
Yeah, we see that too.
And then the manufacturing engineer, we have asked for the stock, and then it shows up 6 weeks later. And then we get into this tension of like, we didn't have the stuff we needed for 6 weeks.
Oh, I see where you're okay. So we have Gants within our projects that are based upon their deliverables too.
Yeah.
So if they miss a deliverable, finish date moves.
Yeah.
So
So
I would
like
recommend
where
that.
is that Gantt? Like, are you sharing the Gantt itself with the customer? Like,
We do milestone, like
yeah,
stage gate process, so similar to product development, and then every gate or milestone has objectives assigned to it or tasks.
yeah,
And if those aren't all met by both parties, we don't move on to the next one, resulting in a timeline push.
right,
Neither party wants a timeline push because for us, that means revenue is pushed. For the customer, that means machine date delivery is pushed.
right,
So there's motivation there. And if you skip those, like in that case, like you said, in the purchasing department, the timeline started. Yes, it has, but your contract and now the motivation and of your customer, if you're saying, I'm not starting until we get these, that's clearly number one in
hmm,
the milestone deliverables. I can't start until I get this, which means your state doesn't start.
yeah,
And then for us, that's based around we get the samples, then we have a kickoff meeting. So we have a buffer of about 2 to 4 weeks, depending upon size of project, from once we get that, where we have internal kickoff meeting discussion, and then we have an on-site kickoff meeting with the customer, which starts the actual project. So then we're very documented and right when we go in. But that's gone through a lot of pains and stuff, right?
yeah. And like now that I know what our core business is, like, that's been a challenge to get to the point where 85% of our revenue is now coming from automation. Like, awesome. And now that I really know, like, most of that revenue there is these turnkeys and semi turnkeys, I got to nail down that process. And yeah, I got to solve that pain, like you talked about, like that you've already solved, of when you have these
Not yet.
dependencies on the customer. Sorry?
Maybe not yet, but
Yeah. But just having like in the document, like, in the SOW or in the first PowerPoint presentation, like just something that says, hey, the timeline starts like when we receive the material, can at least be something we can point to like, hey, you agree to this in our process, and we can have, accept a little bit less. Obviously, we're still accepting pain. Like, we're still a service company, right? There's still going to be, the customer not doing what they said they would do or on the same schedule. But it won't be to the same extent. We don't want to eat as much of the cost. And I think we gather more grace from the customers by having that, in writing, discussed up front.
Yeah, it's not something you throw in their face. It's
Yeah.
oh, I maybe you didn't see this, but this is our
Yeah, just like
process.
yeah, a little line of like, oh, the timeline starts when we get material.
Something else that might help. Are you always having these conversations with the customer, Michael?
About 75% of the time. Yeah.
You need to be having that conversation less than 20% of the time.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a process change is I've led to or moved a lot to project leads.
Yeah.
So they're just like, this is our SOP. This is what we're told to follow. And it seems like there's a less ask to change the process when it's delivered by a team member. Where
Right.
like, if I deliver it because I sold the machine and I've promised certain things, then it's like, Matt, we have this really good relationship. Can we just kind of squish this around a little bit?
Yeah.
And then
I'm with
Matt's
you on
too
that.
nice that he's like, all right, I'll give in because I like pleasing people. And
Hmm.
then I have to go deliver the bad news to my team, which then impacts something else that I might not have known about. And so it's like, let's just put somebody in the middle once Matt sold
Yeah.
these projects to deliver to what was promised. Like we're going to
Right.
execute on what was promised.
Like, ironically, I've kind of done that in a lot of cases unintentionally. Like when we have really difficult customers of like, we've delivered everything and they just like can't, tram in the vise or can't follow instructions in the semi-turnkey, or are just like, the person who's just unreasonable and you regret having ever done work for them. In those cases, that's usually when I just kick it over to a project lead and they stop being so unreasonable. It's actually really surprising because they don't expect that person to be able to change everything overnight, right?
And I think it makes good customers great customers.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
the customers that are like, haven't switched to that bad side of fuel, the ones where you're like, these are just, it's like, why is this so painful? I think they turn into like some of your best customers and really loyal too.
Yeah. It's pretty few and far between now, but the that's now that we have the ability to say no or say like on a hard project, okay, the lead time is like 4 months when we didn't have that ability, a year
Yeah.
ago. Cool. Well, we're already at 56 minutes. You
Oh
want
my goodness.
to?
Yeah. So that's engineering R&D, company-wide updates and improvements. I just asked everybody at the lunch table this. I was struggling to come up with some major changes or incremental changes. I started using Loom videos was one
Oh
thing
yeah,
I
yeah.
came up with. Like I've started liking that for reviewing content. I want to start using it in my sales process.
I
And
think I
then
mentioned this to you, right?
you did, yeah. So it's been on my list, and I finally had a need for it. And
Yep,
a lot of things that I try and do CIs around is I wait till I have a need and then I execute.
yep, gotcha.
So I needed it this weekend, and so I did it. What about yourself?
Well, I just want to say how great Loom is, and I haven't been using it enough lately. But being able to, go in, record yourself talking, addressing all the customer points, but not being able to get looped into this endless set of questions, and not having that awkward like, I need to move on to my next task or my next meeting. It can be this nice self-contained 5 minute thing
Mhm.
that just solves the problem and moves on. Like Loom is super powerful, and I don't use it enough.
It's what I found really cool is the person I sent it to then sent me a Loom video back of all
Yeah,
their
I've had that happen
changes.
too.
So I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I spaced on the question you actually asked
No,
about Loom.
I mean, I was just asking what about yourself for other updates, improvements? I have one other
Oh
small
God, it's
one I'll share.
constant. Like, I'm talking about the going to the Gemba. Like, we totally revamped, like, reorganized, bought a ton of Uline stuff. Like, it's been my big focus to get automation, like assembly clean. Tons of work. And now that that's kind of done, I've just jumped over to the machining department. And we don't have a senior CNC machinist yet. Like I've been looking. And, it looks like we already onboarded one guy for assembly. I'm probably going to onboard a second guy. And I've just kind of accepted, like, as the owner, like, I just need to go in, go to the Gemba, as the Toyota production would say, and just do it myself. Because that's what I did with automation, trying to train one of our guys to assemble things. And I saw how broken it was. Now that I'm doing it with the CNC department, I'm seeing how broken it is, and I'm going to fix it. But it is a little demoralizing. Like I just spent a week and a half busting my ass to get like this one department cleaned up, and then I go to this other department, and I'm like, oh man, this isn't even close to where I think it should be.
I don't know why that should be demoralizing.
Yeah.
You're growing, Michael. How do you flip the script on that? Like it's,
Okay. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
always two ways to look at things. And it's like, it's, how do you just always be
The
like
way to
this?
flip.
I'm going to make this
Yeah.
fun
Yeah.
no matter how much it sucks. I'm shoveling cow crap, but this is going to be fun today.
Yeah. I think the way to flip the script, and I've already told myself this, is like, this is me growing up as a business person. Like, it used to be that I had to like feel smart or special or whatever. And I had to invent something that didn't exist. And it's gotten me where, we are today. But like now I look at it and I'm like, I'm looking at these processes, looking like, can we change that bolt? Can we, put everything like organized neatly with tools that are labeled that never move? Like even little things, like I go into the bathroom and I'm like, like why do we have this cheap toilet paper I can't stand? Like, we have this stupid, like little dispenser that no one wants to change the batteries on. Like our little, med kits just sitting there rather than like being on the wall. Um, I'm starting to become like just a little lean obsessed, and process obsessed and product obsessed rather than like having to feel smart all the time. So I think that's the way to look at it positively.
Yeah. It's probably just easier for me because I'm just that much dumber.
No, I don't think so. I think you're just farther along and more calm, and I think it's a better place to be that I'm moving towards.
I'm just trying to make light of it. I think you're probably much higher IQ than I am. So,
Oh. Even if that were true, like I've seen some brilliant people who like intelligence isn't, you know, everything by any means, especially in business. Like especially in business, it can hinder you.
yeah, I just have always solved things with brute force. Just I can't do it smart, so I'm just gonna get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, there's my self sabotage there for the day. Uh, I think the only other thing that like for company wide or like personal improvements, I don't know. Like, do you still write notes in a personal book?
So what I've moved over is the Remarkable tablet, which I heard
Okay,
about on Jay and Andrew Henry's, or Jay Pearson and Andrew Henry's podcast.
I've looked at that a lot of times, so that's interesting. I'd love to learn more of what you see about that.
So I was talking about my wife Priscilla last night about this. Like I used to use Notion, right? And we still use Notion for all our internal SOPs and stuff. But I used to have my task list in there. And as like a business owner, you always got this like infinite task list that you have to triage. And I would put all these things. And I'd be like, I need to do that. I need to do that. And there's always more tasks there that didn't get done than the ones I finished. And it became this source of guilt for me of like this thing I would scroll through, and I would see all these damn things that I couldn't get done.
Oh yeah,
And
that just creates anxiety there if
yeah,
you want
yeah.
want it.
And at first I moved to like paper, write it down, and a lot of that anxiety went away. And I bought this tablet after listening to to I forget the podcast name, the Lean Belt podcast.
Yeah.
And at first I hated it. Like I thought it was like slightly laggy, but then I got used to it. And now it's just become like I carry it with me all the time at work. I just write the tasks down. I never have to worry about paper, never worry about ink. And all that anxiety is gone. And I kind of go down the list every day on order of importance. And it's just been awesome.
Okay. Yeah. For me, it's been I'll just show it on here. So it's the Full Focus Planner.
Yep.
It's a quarterly based planner, if you will. I found that really good. So I'll plan out my week on Sundays, and then you have 3 main tasks, and then you have subtasks. You can move,
Yep.
delegate, stuff like that. I don't know. And then we have Planner that we work everything in as a Microsoft
Right.
product. But I don't know. I really enjoyed the Full Focus Planner for me personally. I think it's really simple.
It sounds almost identical to the one I used to use, which was the EOS version of that. So it's like quarterly. And again, for me, it was like I would miss a day or two, and it was like the guilt of like like finding the pages of the dates you missed, and
Oh,
like yeah,
it's pretty much turned into I do this, every evening I'll lay out what tomorrow looks like, and then every Sunday I'll build out like the bulk of it, like what my goals and objectives are for the week.
yeah,
I think what I've found is it helps me focus on what really matters because now within there, one of my things that I track is how many things I say no to.
right,
And that number is kind of interestingly large as I've seen over the time. Like it's all right, I said no to this because I wanted to continue to say yes to what I had promised to myself for the team.
right. Makes sense.
Oh, that's just an improvement I've seen over the last quarter that I came up with. I don't know why I'm scraping the barrel to find ideas to share in the podcast.
No, I'm with you on that. And like if you don't task prioritize right as a business owner, like it's gonna be horrible. Um, and and I think that was one of my big problems for a long time. Is like I could build a new product or do something cool, and I let too many like processes not be optimized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you want to like we can kind of speed around the last.
Yeah. Google or Chat GPT. You want to go first?
You know what? To be honest, I don't think this is a good section for me because I'm kind of not Googling stuff right now.
Okay.
The I'm kind of like all in either podcasts or books. I need to start using ChatGPT more, but I can even look through my history. I'm just not Googling that much. I'm either in SolidWorks or Fusion or on the shop floor right now or on a
Okay.
sales call. And maybe we just change this section up next week.
Yeah, my Google, so I struggled with this one actually as well. My Googling is like near zero. It's all ChatGPT. And a thing that I found that it worked really good with this week was building OKRs.
Yep.
So I built like I've built mine over the last couple weeks here, and then I've had some team members that I've helped, and ChatGPT is really good at building OKRs and
Mm.
giving good metrics of stuff that's out in the real world of what you should expect based on your business.
I know what an OKR is. I forget the acronym though.
Objectives and key results.
Okay. Yep.
It's
OKR, KPI. What gobbledygook acronym do you want?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Yep.
objectives and key results. I've seen it. It's really a very good business structure for setting goals with your team and making sure that team members' goals are correlated to the company goals. And then if
Yep.
there isn't a link between those and a goal got put on somebody's sheet, you need to kill it
Right.
because that means it's not driving any momentum in the right direction, and their energy can be focused on, say, the other three that are on their objective list, and they can do a better job at those.
Yep. Makes sense. And then, do we have any listener questions? I forgot to put that up on the story again, to be honest with you.
I didn't get any questions. I was looking at it, so maybe I
So,
need to run it again.
well, okay. Maybe it's my lean kick, but the Google one, the Google section, and the listener question section. Like one of the things I like about the podcast is like it's easy. We come at the same time every week. We record. I don't know if it's my lean kick or what, but I'm kind of looking at like, okay, the Google one I kind of struggle with every week. And then the listener questions, it just like creates a lot of effort when the podcast is like otherwise pretty effortless to make. Like, what if we just
I've
killed those two sections?
I cut it from my list. The listener one used to be that or something personal. I'm
Yep.
good leaving that, but if we don't have, like, if a listener has a question, let's leave it. If we don't have questions, we just ignore
Yeah.
it.
I think what we need to do, like the thing is those little bubbles on Instagram, like nobody clicks them is the issue. Like, or if they click it once when they're exploring your profile. Like, I think we have to, if we do it, like become disciplined about like putting that on our story a couple of days a week and like maybe, processize it in some way. So we
We can do
stop having
that.
this friction of like, oh, Michael or Matt forgot to post this, stupid thing. And therefore we got no questions. And, here we are. Right.
Yeah, I think that's a solid idea. We can do that.
Cool. You want to close out something personal?
I took a personal day this week. I haven't done that in a little bit since Milo's
Wow.
been eating up a
Yeah.
lot of our sleep, and I'm going to be gone over Mother's Day, so we decided to take a spa day, if you will, for early Mother's Day. So
Yep. Awesome.
it was definitely good.
Cool. Yep.
Yourself?
For me, let me think. I didn't think about this one either. We're still doing the dog park thing. That's become like part of the daily ritual, which has been like a nice disconnect from work every day. Especially like right now when I feel like I'm just like really, really pushing to get things moving in the right direction. But I feel great about the business right now, and I think also I'm kind of coming to terms personally with like not having that much personal life. And what I mean by that is like, I have like the airplane was a thing, and we talked last week about like, my magic card collection. And the reality I kind of reflected on is like, I just care more about building the business than I do like flying an airplane or, playing Magic the Gathering with people. And I kind of just have like started to accept that as like a personal thing and starting to be okay with like eliminating these areas of my life that I used to be really attached to.
I think that's cool, actually. Um, I like that you're going all in.
Yeah. And I'm really trying to just simplify everything, get rid of all the extra crap and the stuff that's just taking up space and just like focus on the things that matter.
That sounds like a great way to be kicking off your marriage and your honeymoon next week.
Cool. Well, we'll close out there. But speaking of the things that matter, please give us a 5-star review on a podcasting app.
Incredible segue.
I feel like like one of those stupid YouTubers that like try to sneak that crap in. But anyway, it does really help if you share it with somebody or give it a 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Matt and I's conversation this week on the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend or give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next week to continue sharing our respective journeys in life business and industrial automation. Thanks so much.